Chapter 2350 Dark Sun Forest 1. Zhang Yi sent a message to Gao Chong, asking him to come to his office. After thinking it over for a while, Gao Chong decided to go. Because Zhang Yi's strength is now clearly visible, even Di Shirtian can only kneel down and call him father in front of him. Gao Chong's strength in the Earth Star Force was only at the 3rd tier level, and he had no right to refuse. To be honest, given the ambiguous relationship between Zhang Yi and Zhu Zheng, he could have easily killed Gao Chong during this operation if he wanted to. Don't worry, no one will have any objections, not even Indra. His identity was too awkward. The people of Huaxiu called him a traitor, while the Brahmins called him a person from Huaxiu. If he hadn't been strong enough, and if there hadn't been a shortage of powerful individuals in Bharata, he simply wouldn't have been able to stay there. Guman clenched her fists nervously. I'll go with you. Gao Chong placed his hand on her shoulder and shook his head at her. Don't worry, he won't kill me. Because to him, my life might be more valuable. If Zhang Yi wanted to take action, there was no need to call him over so late at night. As Gao Chong left his room, the sweet notification sound of the Dreamer's shipborne intelligence system rang in his ears. Please walk straight ahead for 100 meters, then turn right at the next intersection. Your destination is the captain's cabin. Xiao Mei is providing you with real-time navigation. Gao Chong navigated the interior of the enormous, castle-like Dreamer, where everything was under Zhang Yi's real-time control. Zhang Yi would know about any slightest movement immediately. Gao Chong made his way to the captain's cabin, where the heavy alloy hatch opened. Zhang Yi sat on the sofa, propping her cheek up with one hand, looking at him with a playful expression. Yang Xinxin sat on Zhang Yi's lap, her gaze towards Gao Chong cold and distant. Hai Long empty. Zhang Yi pronounced his name word by word, then suddenly smiled and said, Long time no see. Indeed, it's been a long time. Gao Chong nodded, about to say something, when suddenly, Yang Xinxin raised her slender hand. A colossal fallen golem appeared behind her, its long, powerful arms outstretched like a broken doll, drawing a large bow shrouded in black smoke to its full extent. On the judgment longbow, the lawyer's arrow appeared, aiming at Gao Chong's body. Gao Chong's pupils contracted sharply. He instinctively wanted to escape, but before he could move, a chill enveloped his body. Around his body, ethereal threads had formed a cage, enveloping his entire body. The ability of dimensional string decomposition can be activated with just a thought from Zhang Yi within the casting range. Gao Chong had witnessed its power. The Norse god king's armor and body were easily torn apart by it. If Gao Chong tries to resist, he will most likely end up in pieces. Become my puppet. With a wave of her hand, Yang Xinxin released the Hersher's arrow from the fallen puppet's hand toward Gao Chong. At a distance of just over 10 meters, in an instant, a black arrow pierced Gao Chong's head. Soon, Gao Chong's eyes became clear. Zhang Yi released the restrictions of the dimensional string solution and knelt down on one knee in front of Yang Xinxin. Master, what are your orders? Zhang Yi curled the corners of his mouth. Now, I can also experience the wonderful uses of your reincarnation deduction ability. He glanced at the time on his tactical helmet. On the first day he arrived on the moon, he had Gao Chong activate his ability, while the reincarnation simulation could only be activated once a day. Therefore, Gao Chong could not deduce that Zhang Yi would have Yang Xinxin attack him. Yang Xinxin wrapped her arms around Zhang Yi's neck, looking down at him kneeling on the ground. Next, I need to use your abilities to investigate something. After they arrived on the moon, their intelligence was severely lacking. Even now, Zhang Yi does not fully trust the people of the Radiant Moon Empire and the Dark Moon Empire. He didn't like this feeling. He wanted to have all the possibilities under his control. Therefore, Gao Chong and Di Shirtian's abilities can be put to good use at this time. Indra's innate prophetic ability allows him to see the trajectory of the world in the distant future. Gao Chong's cyclical deduction, on the other hand, is based on all existing clues to deduce the most likely future. However, Zhang Yi was most worried about the cunning Gao Chong, so he had to get Yang Xinxin to control him. Using your abilities, we might be able to find out exactly what happened to Eclipse Yen, and whether sending us to the Dark Sun Forest is itself a huge conspiracy. Zhang Yi's eyes flickered uncertainly. He vaguely sensed that there must be a connection between Shi Yueyan's death and theirs. Therefore, he wouldn't be foolish enough to go to the Dark Sun Forest. The death of Eclipse Moon Yen was like a time bomb that could explode at any moment. He needs to find that fuse. The next day, the sun rose above the lunar horizon. After Zhang Yi and the others finished tidying up, he opened a huge dimensional gate and took the entire dreamer into the alternate dimension. No matter how many times they saw it, Morgan and the others were still amazed. A spatial ability user is truly an indispensable helper for both home and travel. Zhang Yi's abilities combine offensive, defensive, and support skills, making him the envy of many. Today, it ranks among the top 3 on superpower rankings in many countries. The Vatican's people also arrived, led by disciplined Father Orion and mourning Sister Leibniz, followed by more than a dozen powerful Templar Knights. 2 of them are elites with a superpower index of 20,000+. Meanwhile, the Radiant Moon Warriors of the Radiant Moon Empire and the Shadow Warriors of the Dark Moon Empire, led by Gao Chong and Dao Lan, stood in neat formation in front of Zhang Yi and the others, awaiting their orders. Zhang Yi shaded his eyes with his hand and glanced at the blinding sun on the horizon. The moon's atmosphere is thin, and the intensity of ultraviolet radiation is exceptionally high, almost blinding people. The light needs to be balanced by the light adjustment system of the combat suit. Mr. Chaos, we can set off now, Benjamin Morgan said very politely. In the group, the white Labrador rolled its eyes and complained to Professor Da Vinci beside it. Wasn't he very arrogant in the Natural Sciences Association? Why is he acting like a sycophant now? Professor Da Vinci squinted his dead fish eyes. These damned capitalists, haven't they always been like this? Morgan seemed to have overheard their conversation and turned around with a serious expression. Now is not the time for idle chatter. Pa, Tui. Brian spat hard on the ground, then onto the transparent helmet of his combat suit, splashing it all over his face. Chapter 2351 Dark Sun Forest 2. The Dark Sun Forest is located in a corner of the far side of the moon. There is no concept of east, west, south, or north here, and Zhang Yi and his team did not have time to explore it. However, led by the 2 Lunarian Empire forces, they still managed to reach this area. The vast area shrouded in black mist covers an area of hundreds of kilometers in circumference, equivalent to the size of a human city. The eye could not penetrate it. All that could be seen was a vast expanse of black mist, with the shadowy outlines of some mountains in the middle. As the warriors of the Dark Moon Empire and the Radiant Moon Empire approached, their bodies and expressions visibly tensed, as if they were very reluctant to get closer. It was a resistance that came from the very core of their being, yet they still endured the discomfort and came with the army. Standing beside Zhang Yi, Gao Chong said, "The Dark Sun Forest is right here." Everyone lined up in a row, some turning on their electronic telescopes to try and observe, while others quietly activated their own observation capabilities, attempting to glean useful information. But all efforts were in vain. All observational abilities, once they entered the Dark Sun Forest, were like stones sinking into the sea, yielding no feedback whatsoever. "It feels very familiar," Zhang Yi said to Yang Xinxin and the others. "It's very similar to when we were in the Eye of the Devil." Saladin nodded. "That's right. The feeling is very similar. It is indeed the sealed place of the Druk gods." Gao Chong, Dao Lan, and the group of moon warriors immediately looked at them, their eyes filled with surprise. "Have you ever been to the sealed land of the Druk gods?" Odin proudly declared, "Not only have we been there, but we also personally sealed away the giant god Druk." Feeling the gazes directed at him, he turned his head slightly away, because he was not a key player in that battle. I felt a little guilty saying this in front of Zhang Yi. By this time, he had become obedient and dared not oppose Zhang Yi anymore, but he also kept a sufficient distance from Zhang Yi. Gao Chong and Dao Lan looked at Zhang Yi with even more solemn expressions. "Now we can rest assured," Zhang Yi looked at the two generals and asked, "We are not familiar with this place, so which direction should we enter the Dark Sun Forest from? Or, is there anything we should avoid here?" Dao Lan shook her head. "I don't know." "You know nothing?" "I know nothing." Dao Lan gave an affirmative reply. Zhang Yi was taken aback. "Didn't the locals have any information at all?" Gao Chong explained, "The Lunarians will not enter this area on their own initiative. If there were any fools like that, once they entered the Dark Sun Forest, they would have no chance of escaping. Therefore, no one really knows what it's like inside. So our entry into the Dark Sun Forest is like a blind adventure." Zhang Yi couldn't help but laugh. "You're quite frank." Gao Chong said, "Now that things have come to this, our common goal is to find the spark. Keeping it from you will hinder the mission." Yang Xinxin discovered the blind spot in the problem. "Speaking of which, I'm very curious. It's said that a shadow warrior stole the spark, instant meteor. If they escaped into the Dark Sun Forest, could they have been corrupted as well?" "Have no idea." Gao Chong and Dao Lan's answers remained very honest. Zhang Yi was speechless. From the Knights Templar's side, Father Orion, dressed in a silver robe, stepped forward, first making the sign of the cross on his chest, and then said, "God will protect us. If there is no road, we will make one ourselves. All right, let's go. Now that things have come to this, we have to break in no matter what." Zhang Yi drew everyone into his shadow, leaving him as the only member of the team outside. The barrier of all things in the universe already surrounded him. If his ability index was below 50,000 points, even a surprise attack would not be able to break through his defenses. Even after breaking through the dimensional gates of over 3,000 layers, he still had to face his improved End Demon God armor. These defensive techniques, which Zhang Yi had perfected, gave him a very strong sense of security. The others watched with envy, and Zhang Yi did not try to gather them all into the myriad manifestations barrier. If attacked, he will step in at a critical moment to protect these people as much as possible. However, Zhang Yi would not personally bear the brunt of all possible attacks. "Shadow warriors, follow me." Dao Lan raised her command sword, and the shadow warriors led the charge into the Dark Sun Forest. Lonely City then led the Radiant Moon warriors into the area. They were prepared to die here. Their mission was to pave the way for Zhang Yi and the others. Zhang Yi and others followed closely behind. Upon entering the Dark Sun Forest, the unique magnetic field there caused all the signals on their bodies to become chaotic, making them unable to be transmitted normally. Dark shadows loomed, thick fog hung in the air, and swirling smoke made it seem as if fierce ghosts were dancing. The only way to determine direction is through the most primitive method of marking. The two teams of Lunarian warriors spread out, forming a straight line and advancing forward at a steady pace. Their speed was neither too fast nor too slow, maintaining a speed of about 30 kilometers per hour. Under normal circumstances, such a thorough search could cover the entire Dark Sun Forest within a few days. Gao Chong said to Zhang Yi, "The Shadow Warrior Burning Bones entered the Dark Sun Forest from here. If we search carefully, we will surely find some clues." Zhang Yi nodded slowly. Gao Cheng's voice seemed steady, but his right hand was already gripping the huge spiral lance tightly. A dozen minutes later, they crossed a black plain and saw a strange, twisted forest appear in the mist. Only then did they truly reach the edge of the Dark Sun Forest. The trees, whether plants or black stones, grew in a twisted and contorted manner, like a chaotic, enormous thicket of black thorns. Upon seeing this, Professor Leonardo da Vinci immediately went over, took out a laser weapon, and intended to cut off a piece for research. Seeing this, Gao Chong shouted sternly, "Stop! Don't touch anything here carelessly, or it might be a form of mental pollution." Professor da Vinci glanced at him with his deadpan eyes. "Don't you all know nothing about this place?" Gao Chong was momentarily speechless, then explained, "I was just being cautious." Professor da Vinci said with dissatisfaction, "You lunar people have been around for billions of years and have never thought about how to solve problems. You only know how to run away. If it were me, I would come and study this even at the risk of my life." As he spoke, the laser weapon in his hand began to cut. However, the instant the laser blade touched the strange black tree, a sudden change occurred. Chapter 2352 Dark Sun Forest 3. When Professor Leonardo da Vinci used a laser weapon to cut through the strange black tree, he discovered that it was exceptionally tough, comparable to metal. The laser weapon he used could cut through metal, but it had little effect on the strange tree, which surprised him. Sparks flew everywhere, and a thick black mist billowed out from the crack. Snap, snap. A sound like bones twisting came, and the quiet, strange trees around them seemed to come alive, suddenly beginning to twist. Everyone's expression immediately changed. Damn it, I shouldn't have touched that thing. The enormous, black trees twisted in the mist, as if giants had stood up. They seemed to have grown legs and moved rapidly toward this place. The increasingly dense black mist surged out in this direction. Gao Chong roared and immediately transformed into a silver centaur. He pointed his silver spiral lance at the sky and summoned a powerful bolt of lightning that swept out in all directions. The thick black fog dissipated, and they could see the true appearance of those enormous, strange black trees. The trunks of each strange tree were covered with twisted human faces, and the roots on the ground, like human feet, could be pulled out of the soil and approach the group. These are not inanimate objects, but living things. Saladin shouted. What are these things? Dao Lan said with a solemn expression, the monster created after being corrupted by the mind must be a Lunarian who broke into this place over a long period of time. This is the first time I've seen it up close. As soon as he finished speaking, he soared into the air and transformed into a giant black dragon. However, he did not dare to fly high, but only soared 4 or 5 meters into the air, spewing out a large amount of flames that burned the black strange tree. The moment the 2 black archbishop-level Lunarians made their move, everyone else felt their immense power. King Arthur raised an eyebrow, and the sword of victory and oath was immediately drawn from its sheath, slashing fiercely in all directions. A flash of sword light swept across the sky, landing in a dark forest, severing entire swathes of trees. The group tried their best to stop the giant black trees from getting closer. They were incredibly hard, and there was no telling how many there were. Under the attack of the numerous bishop-level superhumans, many of them broke off. But from the darkness, enormous figures, as big as small mountains, began to rise and approach. Meanwhile, Professor Leonardo da Vinci seemed oblivious to all of this, continuing to diligently saw the tree. Zhang Yi couldn't take it anymore. Zhang Yi raised his hand and used dimensional string manipulation to cut off a section of the black tree. Looking at the treasure in his hands, Professor Leonardo da Vinci smiled happily. Oh, thank you so much, Chaos. You've been a great help to me. Instead of criticizing the old man, Zhang Yi asked, how long will it take to figure it out? I will analyze its components very soon. Professor Leonardo da Vinci, seemingly oblivious to his surroundings, opened his backpack, took out his instruments, and began analyzing the components of the tree branches. The surrounding black giant trees kept getting closer. At first, they were just some scattered branches, but in the end, there were even trees that were hundreds of meters tall and as big as small mountains that rose from the ground. Black, ink-like mist continuously spewed from the enormous tree trunk. After several Lunarian soldiers touched it, their bodies immediately turned black. Without the slightest hesitation, Gao Chong unleashed a bolt of lightning, severing the corrupted limbs of the warriors. Do not touch these things, for they will corrupt one's spirit and will, turning one into an apostle of the demon god. After being attacked, those giant black trees emitted eerie cries that tormented people's ears. Zhang Yi stood still, not in a hurry to make a move, but carefully observed them. They saw these strange things only on the outskirts of the Dark Sun Forest. They may hold the secrets of Samuel's power and reveal what mental pollution really is. Gungnir, the Eternal Spear. Odin conjured a silver spear of lightning in his hand and hurled it at a massive, black, strange tree thousands of meters away. The thunder spear struck its trunk directly, but instead of piercing it, it embedded itself into the giant tree's body. Although it hit, the injury was far from enough to destroy it. Odin's face showed a look of astonishment. His powerful and sacred strength couldn't even destroy a single tree? The place you attacked should be the trunk of this forest. Zhang Yi's voice came through coldly. He passed Odin and raised his right hand toward the towering black tree that resembled a mountain. Dimensional string decomposition. Cut. A crack appeared silently and directly in the space from the middle of the tree trunk. Its target was not the giant tree itself, but rather the space outside that dimension, causing it to collapse regionally and destroying everything that the space contained. With a single blow, the enormous tree collapsed to the side with a loud boom. This terrifying attack power left Gao Chong, Dao Lan, and the others utterly astonished. Zhang Yi didn't bother to explain anything. The attack power of the dimensional string solution was enough to injure even Zhenglu. As the giant tree collapsed, the surrounding black, strange trees suddenly stopped attacking and slowly retreated into the black mist. Odin and his companions, who had originally planned to have a great battle, now stood there awkwardly, weapons in hand. This is only the outer edge of the Dark Sun Forest. Let's save our strength for later. Zhang Yi spoke calmly to the crowd. This is the second time Zhang Yi has made a move in front of everyone since the operation began. But this time, the power of his attack was several times greater than when he fought Odin. Odin looked at Zhang Yi in surprise, only then realizing how much Zhang Yi had held back when dealing with him yesterday. The resentment in my heart gradually disappeared. Even Gao Chong and Dao Lan, who originally thought they were there to protect the weak earthlings, changed their minds. Zhang Yi walked up to Professor Da Vinci and gestured for everyone to stop. Did you find anything? Very interesting. They have biological structures, and their biological structure is very similar to our group of hairless monkeys. They must be Lunarians. However, I also found something else in the biological tissue. Zhang Yi said without surprise. An energy body? A mental energy body. According to the Lunarians, Samuel's energy can mentally corrupt them. Therefore, Zhang Yi believes that Samuel's abilities are most likely mental.
No.
Professor Leonardo da Vinci looked up with a puzzled expression, staring at Zhang Yi with an unprecedentedly serious look in his eyes. It is a material element that has never been discovered before. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.